What's up, fellow gamers? Welcome to my Cybersword class guide here for Cyber Knight's Flashpoint. I'm Phreak. I have about 700 hours played in the game so far, most of which on Chrome difficulty, some of that onto retirement. Pretty good at the game, have not fully mastered every class, but at least you can use this, hopefully, as advice to make a good Cybersword yourself. I'm loading up one of my early game saves where I have access to both Cyberswords. Ultimately, this video is going to be an overview of all the talents, multi-class opportunities for a Cybersword, either into Cybersword or out of Cybersword, ways to play the character, the currently 2 Cybersword mercs in the game right now, as well as a rundown on gear and especially cyberware you may want to install into a Cybersword. So we're going to start with the intro talents here with Power Slice. One thing I'm going to bring up, I'm going to use the phrasing of like Power Slice +2 or Power Slice +3. That +2 or +3 is going to mean how many extra points you spend on upgrade nodes inside the talent itself. So hey, by the way, that's the nomenclature. So Power Slice, out of the box, by itself, doesn't do anything unless you are using a stun club. So there are 3 melee weapon types. There are clubs, there are armor cutters, and there are, for lack of a better term, edges. Only stun clubs have a duration to their debuff. Everything else is instantaneous damage or an instantaneous armor shred. So if you don't invest in Power Slice, not using clubs, you're kind of griefing. So be mindful of that. That said, if you increase the duration meaningfully, the base stun duration is only 1 action, and so increasing it to stunning for 3 actions can be a really big deal, especially if the enemy is very tanky, hard to take down, drones for example, or you want to use more than once in a turn, stun multiple enemies. If you are using clubs, and only if you're using clubs, you can take the duration buff here in Power Slice, and it's worthwhile depending on how important it is to keep the enemy stunned. Other points here will add some damage straight up. Of course, improved Power Slices or Power Slices in general have the base damage of the weapon, and then if you're using, for example, a Plaza Edge, that will add a bunch of pure damage on top. That will be further multiplied and be reasonably effective. Pretty decent there. Dropping the cooldown, sure, I guess. The thing to point out is that Power Slice is, in and of itself, a shared trait or talent on the character itself. And what that means is if you have 2 different melee weapons, you cannot get Power Slice back by switching weapons. You can only Power Slice once every 4 turns, or twice every 3. That's not really the way to phrase it, but twice with a recharge of 3 turns is the better way to phrase that. So hey, be careful. It might be impossible, especially in a shorter mission, to use up all of your Ion Bat ammo. So hey, careful about that one. The whole point being that Power Slice is moderately good, especially if you're using stun clubs. I think there are generally better ways of getting damage than... I mean, this is fine. It's 40% more damage for 3 of the, let's call it 8 attacks you're going to make in the course of a mission. Maybe, you know, of more attacks you're going to make in the course of a mission. That's okay for bonus damage, but realistically, I would say, hey, plus charge, not bad. You sometimes want your second Power Slice for a shred or bonus damage or whatever. That's pretty reasonable. If you're using a club, plus duration, everything else, I feel like is often skippable because there are better things you can learn. Next one is Deflection Field. This one is really solid and a pretty good 1-point wonder. Want to point out this icon right here. This means the talent itself costs 1 charge of your ion battery on whatever your melee weapon is. This does mean you can use feeder weapons. You can have like, well, I use a stun club normally, but I got this E-cutter in my offhand that I switch to and discharge that battery for Deflection Field and switch back. Completely valid playstyle. If you want to, go for it. That's totally fine for you. Deflection Field, I think, is quite strong. I usually don't recommend investing heavily into the talent. The primary reason why is it blocks your mobility as well, and oftentimes, being the fact that you are pretty rarely flanked and need to walk forward, anywhere that has a reasonable deflection field position is often in the way of where you're trying to walk, and since the default game's settings create tally every single turn, slowing yourself down is going to be a negative. Now, that said, there is totally good reasons to use Deflection Field. There's ways to aim it to make sure you don't block yourself off, all that kind of stuff. But because it can occasionally be unwieldy, I find the 2 duration increases to not be all that worthwhile. That said, some of it's kind of unskippable. Plus 1 charge, pretty reasonable if you need it. I mean, it can be a really, really good save me, block damage, keep enemies from, well, they don't really run away necessarily, but keep them from firing back can be really good. Even if they see you, they can't shoot you. Pretty solid here. Plus range, typically not that important. It's not wall size. It's just how far away you can put the wall. Tends to be pretty low value. You can get this twice, of course, if you want. Again, you can bump the range. Dropping the AP to 0 can be useful, but honestly, there are better 0 action point saves in Cybersword. So realistically, I would grab this. I would half the time consider it just a travel node on the way to things like Aegis, or maybe even Choppa. I'm not going to call it bad. I'm going to say that investment is probably not worth it, as there are, again, better talents in Cybersword, but you can totally envision a spot where, no, you're really using this as a way to create dynamic cover. You're going to have your team use the cover, hide behind it, pop out, hide behind it, pop out. Since this game allows you to move after shooting, you can use that as invulnerability. If you want to play it that way and say, hey, the Cybersword is a mobile cover platform, okay, right, +2 charges, a lot of room to space it out, 0 AP, 4 turn, almost 4 turn duration, 4 turn cooldown. If that's your play style, okay, fine, right? Cybersword as a support, okay, fine, go for the +5 maybe, probably skip this one, go for the +5 deflection field, okay, I can buy that, but that's like a pretty specific play style. Again, let's move on. Slash Slide is, I think, by far, and I think it's not close, the best talent in Cybersword. I would call this top 12 talents in the game, roughly. I'm being pessimistic because I think swords aren't the totally strongest weapon class, and so any sword-based talent, no matter how good it is, requires using a sword, which is less good than using an assault rifle, generally speaking. But still, this is really, really good. If this didn't exist, I think Cybersword would be an incredibly, incredibly weak class. But Slash Slide really does a lot of saving here. I think you should basically always max out Slash Slide. It's pretty amazing. So initially, it is 2 action points, which is the AP cost of a melee strike itself. It is a 5-meter dash, which is roughly 1 AP of movement. And within that 5-meter circle, if enemies are within the circle, and then you get within 3 meters of them on the dash, you will strike them. Now, again, they have to be inside the circle. This does not mean you get an 8-meter long attack. They have to be within 5 meters, you get a 5-meter long attack. And base attack range is only 2 meters. So, hey, by the way, this is kind of only sort of printing 3 meters of move speed. Kind of. Although, of course, getting extra attacks is really valuable. But yeah, what it means is in a 1v1, this is only really saving you 1 AP, and 1 AP saved on a 5-turn cooldown is a pretty bad talent. But what you can get, though, is you can increase the range pretty nicely to 7, then 9, then eventually 10. And turns out a 10-meter dash is going to pretty cleanly save you 2 AP in the Slash Slide, but it's also very, very, very likely, in a lot of cases, to have 2 or sometimes even 3 enemies in that, dash rectangle, functionally. And it turns out, when you save 2 AP on movement, and you save 4 AP on getting 2 extra strikes here and everybody else, it turns out when you print 6 action points on a talent that's really good, and you want a second charge, you want to drop the cooldown in 4 turns, you should endeavor to use Slash Slide 3 times per mission every single time you can. This is really, really good. This is the reason to play Cybersword. In fact, this is the reason to dip into Cybersword. If you're a melee-wielding class, maybe you're a Vanguard using a sword, I would pretty much always dip into Cybersword relatively early, get at least Slash Slide +2, maybe +3. You could probably stop here. And then if you're in deep investment, grab these at the end. But I would say a 4-point dip for Slash Slide with the charge and the extra range. Almost every melee character should probably consider doing this. Regardless, again, just want to point out, it's a very good talent. If you're heavily invested in blades, spend the entire 5 points. If you're moderately invested in blades, spend, the +3. Really good stuff overall. Next is Whisper Kill. This one is certainly a little bit awkward, especially in higher difficulties. So keep in mind that if you damage somebody with a weapon and not Tox Cloud or something, or Shuriken Wave, they're going to be alert. They're going to be in combat. Even if you stun them first, you atomic stutter them, they become alert, they're just stunned. Which means a melee attack killing an unaware or suspicious target means you either poisoned them earlier and then cleaned up later, which I'm not going to say you can't do that, or it means that you one-shot them. It is very, very unlikely for a stun club to one-shot. It is fairly difficult for an E-Cutter to one-shot. It is possible for a Plaz Edge to one-shot. Now, the nice thing about the 2 bladed melee weapon types is they come with stealth crit damage. So you're looking for ways of bumping crit chance and or stealth crit chance, and you're going to try to one-shot on this, otherwise this talent does nothing. Again, I'm going to really kind of caution you that Whisper Kill is kind of awkward to use because there's basically no crit chance increases in Cybersword. You've got to get it all off class, which means that's going to require pretty meaningful investment, and that can be difficult, that can be kind of tough. This is the kind of thing where you might go into Whisper Kill if you're coming into Cybersword from Vanguard or from Agent EX, or you've already got pretty well kitted out soldiers and or snipers on your team. That's kind of more often going to be the look. Hey, just by the way, Whisper Kill is a bit awkward to use, but yeah, if you can print 3 move points, 2 charges, 4 turn cooldown, if you can reliably print this, you're going to feel pretty good about it. I don't remember exactly how enemy scaling goes on lower difficulty levels. It is probably possible that a well-equipped Cybersword with a high-level sword, with good attributes, with good traits, with good cyberware, you might not need to crit to kill low-level enemies. I'm not certain of that, but if you're playing something like Chrome, it is non-negotiable. You will need to crit, and that might be too tough. So careful, Whisper Kill needs help, or you have to be on a low difficulty that you don't need the crit chance. Thankfully, Lightfoot can help, because one other downside of trying to strike in melee, by the way, is by running into melee range, even if you're crouching, your footsteps have a larger noise radius than the melee attack. Now, there's ways around this. The way guard AI works, we said on Whisper Kill, the way guard AI works is they will turn to the first time they heard footsteps, and then will not turn to keep up with you if you got out of their vision cone. So let's pretend a guard is like 180 degrees turned away from you, and you like run up kind of like on a diagonal, where let's say the guard is here, right? And they're facing this way, and you're gonna come, and like their vision range, like their audio range is this, right? If you run up like this, and you cross their vision, their hearing like circle right here, and end here, they're gonna turn around, they're gonna look here, you're gonna end up there, and this turn takes so long, they're gonna like look this way, not see you standing here. They're only suspicious because all they did was hear footsteps. They didn't see you. And even without stealth tools, you can go for a stab here, and this guard is not, you know, fully angsty yet. That's pretty niche. Realistically, what you're gonna do is use Lightfoot. We'll move on now. So Lightfoot is, I think, one of the only real ways of printing crit chance, and it's only stealth crit chance. So this, again, the guard has to already be unaware or suspicious or whatever. You've got to probably be hidden yourself. Hey, by the way, if you walk up to it's like, yeah, anyway, you need stealth crit chance for this one, which means you have to be an unaware target or be hidden yourself for the most part. But the nice thing is, yeah, Lightfoot comes in and says, okay, I get to run silently. That's great. That can guarantee you get your 25% hit chance from an unaware target. This can guarantee you can unlock your stealth crit chance and stealth crit damage. Still got to find ways of printing that crit chance, but thankfully, this upgrade right here on Lightfoot is 25% stealth crit chance. This helps. This says 1/4 of the time I'm going to make Whisper Kill go effectively. You will still need other versions of bonus stealth crit chance. I would say these increases to the range you can run is not important. Keep in mind the base AP of movement is 3. That is at baseline 12 meters of movement. And since guards can hear for 10 meters on footsteps, and your melee range is 2 meters, guess what? Without really ever wasting any action points, you can pretty reliably Lightfoot in behind a guard, just stop short of their hearing cone or their hearing circle, Lightfoot in, make the strike. You don't really need this other stuff. You can certainly, if you really want to invest and you've managed to find ways of printing other forms of stealth crit chance and you're still on board and it's still there, okay, bumping Lightfoot down to a 2-turn cooldown means every other turn you can Lightfoot at a guard, get the unaware target buff, go. Very reasonable, if you can get there, right? If that is something you can do and reliably keep doing, okay, fine, wonderful. That is a bit situational. Again, I think there's other points to spend in other places that might be more valuable, but certainly something that you can choose to do. Next is what I'm going to say is a probably top 3 talent, maybe top 4 inside of Cybersword, is going to be Preempt. Preempt is melee Overwatch. I want to note that unlike other Overwatch talents, where if you store a bunch of AP and then hit Overwatch, you can store, 3, 4, sometimes even, I guess if you have an AP stored, you could store 5 actions, 5 attacks rather, in the Overwatch, as unlikely as that would be. Realistically though, again, Preempt is really just you're going to store 1 attack in Overwatch. Now the nice thing is, melee attacks cannot miss, which means whoever you hit with Preempt is going to lose their turn. They're going to stop in their tracks. That is going to be really effective. They can get a second charge of the talent itself so that you can Overwatch again a turn later. You can drop the cooldown to 3 to give you really high frequency, high uptime access to Preempt in a lot of cases. You can increase the range of the functional dash strike to eventually 8, then 10, and then 12. I don't think you really need to do that. I don't think you need these too badly. The primary use case for me is I went for a fight, tried to kill a guard. I didn't have enough damage. I low rolled. I rolled 30% glance twice in a row. Who knows what? And it's like, well, they're going soon. I got unlucky. All right, Preempt. And the guard is going to act on their turn. You're going to strike them. You're probably going to get a real hit, not a glance. And oh, lo and behold, you got rid of them. You got rid of their tally. This cost you a talent, but not any action points. Even if you didn't roll well on damage, they can't shoot back because you preempted them. You hit them. They're done. Again, you typically don't need the range because you're often using this on a guard you're already fighting with. Of course, you can set ambushes around a wall or something, but also keep in mind that guard vision range is at a minimum 18 meters. And it's really hard to drop that like below 12 with various other debuffs. So realistically, it is somewhat infrequent for you to need the extra range on Preempt. I would offer I was sort of encouraged not bothering here. But yeah, +1 charge, I think, is a pretty easy one. This is just, it gives you a lot of safety, which I think having 0 action point reactive safety for a melee character is really, really helpful, because it can make sure you're constantly checkmating the guards and never taking damage, and that's really, really good. The final talent in this side of the tree is Shielded Rush. This is a proactive, only while running, shield. You use this basically to either detonate proximity mines that are in the way that you can't disarm or don't want to disarm, or to break Overwatch. Those are pretty much the only 2 triggers for Shielded Rush. There's really no other way to take damage while you're moving. Again, it sort of specifically spells out your blocking Overwatch reaction shots. The nice thing is if you don't take damage from Overwatch, you do not lose your action, and so popping Shielded Rush, running across the open field, tanking, well, initially 2 shots, but you can make it, I guess you actually can't make it more than 2 shots, take it back. You can increase the number of action points you can get, but you can still only block 2 shots. But again, using this to break open landmines, I've used that before. It's not unreasonable. It happens more often than you might think. Yeah, the landmine's going to be loud. Okay, sure. If you have teammates inside the circle, be careful. They're going to take damage too. Realistically, I find that because you have control over your own movement, you don't really need more than 3 action points of movement in this case. Almost ever. Usually the Overwatch cones are going into a similar spot, and you can make sure you overlap with all of them in your run here. Because you can't get more bullets tanked, you don't need to run, the entire map in action or whatever. Second charge can be good. I typically find that I don't need that, and it also makes you have to go through this one as well to do so. Similar thing for the minus cooldown. As a 1.1 though, Shielded Rush is definitely pretty solid. No big complaints there. One final thing I want to bring up, actually, is that there are 3 5% move speed nodes in this side of the tree. It's these 3. These are almost powerful enough by themselves to be worth the point in and of itself. I wouldn't say it's quite that good. Also keep in mind that 2 of these are reactions, so it's really 6% move speed. These are, again, almost at the bar of I'll just spend this point to spend it. That if I didn't even care about Shielded Rush, I might go here. If I didn't care about Preempt, I might actually go here. And then if I'm already at Shielded Rush, I might go here. It's close to the bar where you're like, I don't really love any of my talents. Grab these if you haven't already. They're actually pretty good. We go to the next tree here, behind Deflection and Field, and this is where basically all of the rest of the tank talents are in Cybersword. There are kind of 2 ways to play Cybersword in a tank line. You can sort of kind of play Evasion Tank. I think it's really unreliable and requires multiclassing. The other option is playing a full armor tank, and that actually is really, really well supported here. So while I will typically play a Cybersword as a pretty fast and rapid and often lightly armored melee character, relying on Slash Slide, hoping for stealth crits, trying to print action points and getting stuff done, and trying to make sure, I'm checkmating enemies with Preempt, you can absolutely play Cybersword as a much more sort of proactive tank where it doesn't matter what they do, you're not going to die. And so the first part of that one can be Aegis. Aegis is supremely reliable right out of the box, and it works really, really well. It is a 0 action point save me. It costs a battery. That can matter. Keep in mind, early game melee weapons only have 2 battery on them. And if you're playing a multi-stage mission, something like Carnivore or 11th Hour or Sibling Breakout, battery does not recharge from stage 1 to stage 2, so careful on multi-stage missions. The devs have said they want to add multi-stage proc-gen missions as well, so be careful. If you're starting to use things like this and rely on Aegis to make sure that you are going to be safe, this is the kind of thing that you might need to run extra batteries as consumables for, because you might find yourself running out if you're not running later game melee weapons with 5 to 6 ammo in the battery. Just be careful about that one. But Aegis is a really great save me. Cooldown is not unmanageable. It is block 2 hits, no ifs, ands, or buts for this turn and the next turn. Obviously, if you did a bunch of initiative delays and your Cybersword is going last in the turn, Aegis wouldn't do anything by itself unless you had the duration, which again, it comes with +1 turn duration. So you have always at least 1 turn of safety. If you decide, no, my Cybersword goes first, I'm going to go at the beginning of the turn, and I go in here, bam, it's there. If it wasn't scary, it's still on for the next turn, no big deal. But yeah, 2 hits to save me works pretty well. Want to call out that if enemies shoot at you full auto, mostly fire comms, even if all 3 bullets, the full auto hits you, it counts as quote-unquote 1 hit. It will roll all the damage together. It will trigger 1 proc of Aegis. All the damage will be blocked, and you will only lose 1 of your 2 charges. I want to point that out pretty strongly, that don't worry, this is going to do pretty well. That said, there are plenty of enemy types you can strike twice in a turn. Those are, of course, separate hits. Unsurprisingly, if there's more than 1 enemy around you, that's going to be more than 2 hits in a lot of cases. Be careful, that can be scary as well. But you can, of course, get a 3rd hit here. Okay, that's going to be a little bit of safety. You can get 10% evasion. As I mentioned, you can kind of play an evasion tank. I don't think it's very good. I think it is incredibly unreliable. A lot of guards have the ability to reduce your evasion, which makes this really, really scary. Being a melee character, it is tough for you to be behind high quality cover. I would not recommend trying to be an evasion tank. This is basically a not fully dead node, because 1 in 7 times or so this will trigger and functionally save you 1 charge of your Aegis shield, but I would not consider this a point to die for. The reason to grab this would be +1 charge. This gives you even more safety. If you find your cyberswords are in combat a lot and getting shot back at, great. Second charge, again, mind the battery here, but pretty good. Third charge, pretty solid. Cooldown to 3, seems fine. Duration to functionally 3, right? This and the next 3 turns means you can basically have Aegis permanent uptime, as long as you have the battery, as long as you don't run out of 3 hits. Pretty reasonable, solid tank talent. We go to the left-hand side here. It's kind of mini Aegis. This is if you don't want to proactively go ahead and put the shield on. Don't worry, this is also a sort of 0 action point thing, but you don't have control over it. This is anytime you spend battery. So I went and used improved power slice, and you can plan for it, right? If you think about it, you're like, oh, okay, I am near 2 enemies and Slashlight didn't kill. All right, well, I'm gonna improve power slice. I'm gonna like either kill one of them with a Plasma Edge, or I'm gonna stun one of them with the stun club. And because of that, I got a 1-point shield. And because of that, the other guy that I didn't stun and didn't kill, well, don't worry, I'll block the first attack there, and I might just be safe. You also might not be safe, but you know, it's still there for you. This, of course, also gives you evasion. So again, you can try to evasion stack here with Aegis and get 20%. This is still not enough to make me feel comfortable. I would still not try to be an evasion tank. Also, you cannot get more charges here, or sorry, more points to the shield. It's still only 1-point shield. And again, keep in mind, enemies can shoot twice in a turn. It's a little scary, but look, as basically a freebie, yeah, you can get the duration to be basically 2 turns. You can get the cooldown to be only 4. You can get a second charge. You can have arc field up a decent amount. And look, it's already kind of here. You can kind of just grab it. It's not too bad. Again, the evasion can sometimes matter here. Just be careful because it's only remainder of this turn. If you're going last on the turn and you use some battery, arc field will do literally nothing if there's no regards going on this turn itself. Again, this can be dead weight. It depends on your initiative ordering stuff, but overall, right, it's kind of there. It's kind of free. There's no real downside to it except for the talent point, so up to your call. The big winner, though, the reason why you can totally play a tank cybersword is adaptive restruct. It costs 1 battery. Again, that's a theme here. Everything here costs 1 battery. But the nice thing is, hey, you patch 1 armor. Cool. You are shred immune armor, so your protection points can't go down. That's useful. Okay, fine. 1 action point, not a big deal. Drop it at 3 turns. Okay, fine. You can make the shred immune last for this and the next 2 turns. That's going to line up pretty nicely with the 3-turn cooldown, so you can have pretty much permanent proactive shred immune armor. You can make the AP cost 0, so you can literally have, at no cost, permanent proactive shred immune armor. That's wonderful, but the real fun point is here. 20% multiplicative bonus armor, right? This means if your armor was 70% and you get 20% more of that, what's 20% of 70? 14, which means you go from 70% armor to 84% armor, which means instead of taking 30 damage, you take 16 damage, which means you're taking half the damage, and they can't shred it, which means you will continue to take half the damage. If your armor is better than 70, you move up and move up and move up. I forget if the actual armor cap is 90 or 95%. I just don't remember. I typically don't play heavily armored, so I forget what the number actually is. I want to say it's 95. So it's like if you have an 80% armor and you pop this, you are at armor cap. Taking 5% of your health with every attack, or 5% of the listed damage every attack, is very, very, very low. It's not going to be very, very scary. Again, you can keep functionally permanent uptime, 0 action point cost, 3-turn duration, 3-turn cooldown. Wonderful stuff. If you did hit this late and you're like, actually, I've got to patch 2 armor here, okay, fine. You can use it reactively, patch your armor back up, keep going. Keep in mind, only the heavier armors even have 2 protection points. So by going this far, you're already acknowledging you're playing a heavy armor cybersword with the protection points to patch. And realistically, you can just stop at +4. If you want to play a heavy armor cybersword and functionally be invulnerable, and aside from running out of battery at some point, nearly self-sustaining there as well. Finally, go to the right-hand side of the tree. Next up is Choppa. This is going to be another one of the top 3, top 4 talents here in Cybersword. It's just nice, solid, relatively active action point printing. Now, if you come out of Improved Power Slice, it's a 1-pointer here from Strength. If you come out from Deflection Field, it's Strength Accuracy or plus Will and built-in armor. So, hey, if you're not being a tank build, this is dead to you. If you're doing some damage, this is fine. But Choppa, you can get it down to a 3-turn cooldown. You can get a second charge, and it prints 2 AP on kill. This node is relatively weak. It's 10% kinetic damage, but only for the remainder of this turn, which, honestly, yes, you put the 2 AP back to get another strike, and if you were able to slash slide and ensure that there's 2 guards in range and slash slide kills 1, you get 2 AP back, you get 10% kinetic damage, you can now strike the second guy with extra fervor, and that's kind of nice, but It's also relatively common that guards are not all grouped together, and that you killed one and the 2 AP was used to like get closer to the next one, or do something else like afford you deflection field or something like that, or switch to a pistol and shoot somebody at range or whatever. And so oftentimes the extra kinetic damage here would go to waste. If these were reordered, I would never take this point. I would grab cooldown, I would grab +1 charge. Again, I still always take Choppa, it's quite good, but this is like, oh, it's occasionally useful, but it's really blocking your extra 2 AP here by letting this prop, one more time per turn. The nice thing about passive talents with a cooldown that have 2 charges is it gives you a lot more grace around when you re-trigger it. You cannot activate this more than once per turn. Hey, by the way, you can't print 4 AP all at once, but if you get a kill turn 1, anywhere between turn 2 and turn 4, as long as you re-trigger it, you're never losing out on the cooldown, and you can kind of keep going, and then again, your next window is between turn 7, turn 10, and it keeps going on like that. So it's relatively easy for you to get 3 and sometimes even 4 charges in a mission. I mean, even 5 is not entirely unreasonable. If you have good uptime here and you pop this quite a bit, it is action point or talent point efficient to learn it and unlock it and upgrade it. And so it ends up being pretty good. Off of the side here is Sure Parry. I think this one is rather awkward. If you're attacked by a melee weapon, immediately block the attack and gain some stats. Now, depending on how close the enemy is to you, be careful, because they can sometimes strike twice. If they were close enough to move points to get close for AP to attack twice, that is very doable. And so in a world where you want this, you can take +1 charge and then be really sure that a single melee enemy can't stop you. The plus initiative and shred immune armor. So the initiative, like, this is too little initiative for me to care, realistically. I think this is like almost a meme. It's just too small. Like, it occasionally can tie break, sure. You block the attack, then turn shred immune to make sure that the follow attack that you may not be able to block or someone else coming in. But like this weird, like reactive, but like only situational shred immune bonus, this feels so niche. I would not bother going here. Letting my accuracy and kinetic pure damage buff last extra turn is certainly quite nice. Keep in mind, if my turn is already over, a base like 1 turn duration will still wait for my next actual turn itself. The game sequences turns like that. It'll change the buff debuff duration and whatnot. Realistically, at most I would stop here and grab this, but I don't think I would take plus duration of a situational buff. I don't think I would take +1 charge here. I can't think of a single time I've ever had a Cybersword be attacked by a melee character. Literally ever. I don't play with Cyberswords a ton, but like still play dozens of missions. I've never had this run in, never had this situation happen where Sure Parry would have triggered, even though I've also never learned it, but it never would have triggered. The other kind of downside is it is a 2 travel pointer to get to. You probably wouldn't ever path up the middle to go to these 2 points. You probably go up from Choppa instead. And so these are attributes you would only ever grab just to grab Sure Parry. So it does require kind of 3 points to learn Sure Parry, which is a little bit unfortunate. Again, I think it's okay to grab it by itself, but there are still other good talents that you care much more about. Again, Preempt is a better version of this, where when the melee guy walks into range, you stop them in their tracks and they're done right away. That's pretty useful, right? Move up the tree, we talk about Power Cycle. These two are drone talents, so in the current version of the game where drones are not super prevalent, I would urge you to generally skip these, but in terms of what's going on here, this is passive. When you kill a drone, get 1 battery back, gain crit chance for the rest of the turn. Again, 10% crit chance is pretty situational, only lasts for the 1 turn. Good luck. Drones are often not left with 1 HP at the end here. Now again, if you're going to trigger Chop, you're going to do 2 AP here as well. If someone's nearby, you can use the 2 AP, the 10 kinetic damage, the 10 crit chance, and yeah, you can look for something else afterwards. That is, again, possible to try to make that happen. Again, a bit situational, but it is theoretically possible. You can get an extra 1 ammo to get 2. You can get, again, extra charge as a passive talent. That's totally fine. You can say, hey, also, if I'm really going to make the swing happen, give me 20% kinetic as extra pure. That is a huge amount of bonus damage. Just keep in mind, again, the duration is pretty tight. You're kind of relying on Choppa for it to be good. And again, right now, there are not many drones, so I would not consider this. But in a world where drones are common, this is a pretty good damage printer that I would probably consider using. Final one in the tree is EMP. So does not require any battery here, just simply damages drones. Keep in mind, anything that says it deals pure damage means you're going to do the typical damage roll that is in the game, which is between 75 and 100% of the listed damage here. So the expected value of this is actually 87.5 damage here. It's still 87.5 direct health loss to all the drones, and most drones will have like 80, 90 armor or something. So, I mean, that's in kinetic damage terms, like 500. it turns out that's a lot of kinetic damage. But you're going to find other ways of getting pure damage, so I wouldn't really consider that directly. Regardless, you are getting a pretty solid debuff here. For one action point, you are probably getting your money's worth. You're getting a nice debuff here of action points, move points, and accuracy. If you just need a way to spend 1 AP, because, right, you can only ever use melee strike with an even amount of action points. If you have 5, you walked up for 1, you strike twice, it's like, well, I guess I'll EMP, because why not? Great, it's there, have fun. Minus action point, minus move point, totally reasonable. You can increase the range from 6 up to 9, and then 14 is going to be the net range here. That is a very, very, very large radius overall. You will very likely hit more than 1 drone when these things actually happen. But again, you need to debuff them for more than 2 turns to make it 3. I hope they're dead by then, but if you're really stuck in combat, okay, that's fine, right? If you're really kind of toughing it out, you're using Aegis, you're using Adaptive Restruct, you're EMPing, you're trying to get through them, okay, right? If you're in more of a drawn-out fight, sure, you might care about the kind of stuff. Dropping the cooldown to 2 turns, by the way, like in a world where drones are common enough, I will happily take 1 action point. Also, you get a little bit of damage here. It's not enough to really matter. You're adding 7 point, you're adding like, what, 82.5 damage? Or no, you're adding 87.5 damage. No, 8.75, there we go. Damage on the active here. This is, basically trivial. But what you're getting is, being able to cast this more often, which, yeah, it's a pretty solid debuff. It's pretty good damage. Taking them for the cooldown explicitly seems reasonable. Grabbing the radius. Again, in a world where drones are actually common, I'd say, sure, go for it. It seems pretty decent. What would I recommend for an actual build here? It's pretty clearly take Slash Slide. If you're multiclassing in, stop here, but you're going to kind of dedicate yourself, go in. I would go and grab Preempt. I would take the +1. This would probably not be what I do at the very, very start of the game, but this is valid. I would grab here, I would take Aegis, I would stop, I would go and grab Choppa. If you're going for a bat, I would take Power Slice and grab +1/+1 here. If you're not going for bats, then go up this way instead. You can still do this if you wanted to and grab this, but yeah, it's fine. Take the charge, take the cooldown. This is pretty solid. This is technically, this is still level 10. Level 10 is worth 2 points, so I've got a dead point still here. Ultimately, you kind of want Lightfoot's crit chance to make Whisper Kill do anything. If you don't have crit chance, you're not going to get anything here. So, what is he going to spend? I mean, I could take Power Slice Duration. I could move towards Shielded Rush. I could just try to grab Move Speed somewhere. Unfortunately, we've grabbed this one, but we're not in range of either of these two. I could go towards Restruct. This is kind of good, be a dead point for a little bit, but it can be useful down the line. Not going to go for Sure Parry. I could start trying to move towards Arc Field. Again, I could take Whisper Kill, just acknowledging that's not going to do anything until I get to this point here in most cases, or someone else, bumps my crit chance. I guess we'll take it, but meh. Other thing to do, though, is actually move into other classes. So, as I mentioned, you can have anyone multi-class in and just take Slash Slide and feel good about it. But let's talk about the other options here. So, my primary recommendation is actually going into Soldier. You will rush for Coordinated Charge. You'll take the +2 for 20% move speed. And you have basically, on turn 1, you buff your entire team and yourself with 1 move point, 20 move speed. Pretty solid. And then later, on turn 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, you're going to buff yourself and, on average, 1 other teammate with another 1 move point, 20% move speed. And that's going to be worth the points overall. Keep in mind that the points leading up to it, 2 of these have crit damage, which is pretty solid overall. And so you have a pretty good amount of damage here. Marker Sights is a pretty solid evasion buff. You can get some more crit chance here, you get some more crit chance here, which means you can combine to 25% crit chance in Marker Sights with pretty low investment overall. To, again, make these Whisper kills go a bit nicer. That's going to be pretty reasonable. It's going to look solid. Weirdly enough, you actually can go into Sniper. Primarily, it's for things like Strike Zone, giving you a bunch of crit vulnerability and evasion, so that crit vulnerability and evasion on enemies, so that you have a higher chance of critting for, again, things like Whisper Kill, and making sure your hit is going to actually land. Because even though melee weapons are guaranteed glancing hits cannot crit, they cannot shred, and you often want these things to happen. So having accuracy and crit from Strike Zone is good. Having accuracy and crit from JTAC here, also pretty good. If you really want to go into this stuff for plus evasion, you can. I want to caution that as of right now, the duration nodes and both of these are bugged, and they set the duration of the buff itself to 1 turn, instead of making the buff itself close to about 3 turns. So, buyer beware. If you stay inside of JTAC, you're going to be really sad. But yeah, you can get another 20 evasion from this and feel kind of okay about it. Again, I don't think it's really realistic, but that is a world you could go for. Everything else you would probably choose to skip realistically. Although you can theoretically use things like Quiet Kill. It gives range accuracy, but you get crit chance. And you can get stealth crit chance here as well. If you go into Fleeting, you get accuracy against unaware targets. You get move points and move speed. In a world where you actually do manage to, get a Whisper Kill hit, you can pop Fleeting as well. Hit Streak works on technically everything, as far as I know. It does not require a sniper rifle at the very least, so you could theoretically try some weird build here. I'm not seriously recommending this. It's just less garbage than it sounds. Going into Vanguard, this and Agent EX are the primary stealth classes in the game. The big one here is going into silence and grabbing a bunch of stealth crit chances, stealth crit damage. This also is another way to silently walk at your enemy. In fact, I would argue it's almost strictly superior to the quiet running talent, because to Lightfoot, because it's for any number of action points. It gives you 10% move speed. 10 crit chance to 15 crit damage is not quite as good as the 25 crit one, but you can even get it to the point where you have a 2-turn run. It's scales on attack, but you can have like a full 2 turns of running at 10% move speed and then eventually getting to where you need to go. Blend, another one here where you can get a bunch of stealth crit chance and stealth crit damage. There's some stealth crit damage here as well as some generic damage, so you can get a good amount of stealth crit here. Even baseline blend is 25 stealth crit chance, so you have 50 here, you have 20 or so here, you have 25 from the quiet running talent from Lightfoot, so that can all be decent. You can use lure to bring enemies together and slash slide them. Like, there's actually kind of a lot to like in a Vanguard Vanguard into Cybersword dual class. The only one thing to concern yourself with is Vanguards cannot wear heavy armor, so it is incongruent. It is whatever. It doesn't line up with trying to play a heavy armor tank build, but if you're into the Vanguard stuff, you probably wouldn't anyway, so not a huge deal there. Also, you can use Refract instead, and it's going to be pretty solid. You can walk through it, and since it blocks line of sight, is almost as good as everything else you're doing. Anyway, moving on. Gunslinger is pretty much unplayable. Technically, there are evasion buffs here in Quick Draw. It's here in Gunsmoke Drift as well, and technically also in Trigger Vector, I think. Yeah, the baseline has 10% evasion. I would not seriously consider doing this. It's not a real recommendation, but theoretically, evasion tank kind of exists, but again, don't actually do it. Scourge is a real possibility. You can use poisons from Venom Trap and Tox Cloud to get people low enough to Whisper Kill them. That is not unreasonable. You can try to use Disorient to add some crit vulnerability, but it's not a ton. Tox Cloud also, by the way, debuffs them. And even if the cloud leaves, they are still debuffed, so you can keep the crit vuln there on that one as well. Venom Trap doesn't have the same kind of debuffs here in terms of like making them easier to crit. I would not realistically bother going for things like Callus if you're already going into Adaptive Restruct. You could do this. It is 0 action points, and it is relatively, I would say, common or relatively doable that when you're playing Cybersword to get a lot of move speed penalty reduction and thus actually barely feel this. I'm not, again, seriously suggesting you play Callus here. I think you can just play Adaptive Restruct and feel good about it. But you can do something like, if you're playing your Cybersword to be a really stealthy character and be really effective that way, you can just come in and be like, yeah, I'm a Cybersword. I also took Dissolve, and I clean up the bodies that I killed, because swords are innately very, very quiet. I killed the enemy quietly, I shredded them quietly, I killed them quietly, I then dissolve the body quietly for, and by the way, it's only 1 action point, right? The odd even number paradigm, kind of nice here. And yeah, Biocut Bullet is kind of unusable, but this stuff isn't too far away. Yes, the close quarters accuracy is trash, but hey, this gives connect damage. Like, you can go here, and it's not, completely unplayable. Again, it's like kind of weird, but it's not completely horrible. Morass does similar things to where, what is it? The field, where you don't want to walk forward, and the duration is very, very long innately, so hey, careful, this can be really annoying for you. But there's stuff here you can kind of feel it out, and it like kind of works. Of course, if you're a Cyber Knight, multiclassing into Cybersword for the stuff I talked about earlier totally works. It's totally fine. Would not really bother with hackers. I don't think you should bother multiclassing out of hacker into this kind of stuff. Their typical, talent distribution or attribute distribution and trait distribution won't typically line up with being good with a melee weapon. I wouldn't really bother. It seems kind of silly. Final options, Agent EX. This one is okay. White Noise is a 1 AP talent, not terrible. It does come with crit vulnerability sometimes. It gives you the quiet footstep stuff, which is nice. If you're playing a team of multiple melee characters, this could be really nice. You white noise the enemy, you then attack with one of your cyber swords on like one side of the guard. The guard will join combat, will look towards that cyber sword, someone else can walk in, and if they're hidden, they get to take their stealth attack. The crit vuln's still there, they can maybe stay hidden. And so if you're benefiting a lot of melee characters, an Agent EX is quite useful. Smokescreen, you can easily attack. Melee weapons work inside of smoke, so you can have a bunch of Agent EX Vanguards or Agent EX Cyber Swords that will kind of work here. Glitch will line up as well. Glitch counts as silent running. Glitch can get you behind the enemy, can totally work there. If you're worried about taking damage, you can go for Adrenaline Flow and make this kind of stuff happen. You can, you don't really need to, but you can. And that can all work kind of decently, so those are all sort of, I would say relatively real possibilities overall. So overall, to kind of talk about the things to like in a Cybersword, as we kind of rank through the talents to give kind of the rundown of the playstyle here. One, They are the best silent armor shredders in the game. There is no better way to kill a hard target quietly than swords. You can theoretically silence your assault rifles and sniper rifles hard enough, but you are relying on a bit more luck to shred with the assault rifle. You are relying on really just pumping damage elsewhere, or like printing a bunch of pure damage somehow to make your sniper rifle punch through someone with like 85% armor. It is still possible, don't get me wrong. You can crit hard enough on a sniper rifle. You can, with perfect accuracy, do enough damage with an AR. The other recent videos on this channel might attest to that if you look at any of the, like, sort of my like late game let's play footage. But especially in the early to mid game, when you don't have gobs of bonus accuracy and tons of bonus crit chance and really, really good mods and everything else, just striking with a sword 2-3 times, going for a stun club hit, it is just the most convenient way to deal with heavy enemies. The fact that Slash Slide doesn't print a ton of recoil in the way that a full auto assault rifle will, the fact that you don't have to reload your swords, and considering that damage tends to outscale enemy health in general, this means that early game you're reloading a lot more than late game, and so you can get a lot of value out of this early game stuff here. And I would say, yeah, it's a pretty solid early game class. And then when you start death touching at 30 meters, okay, good luck keeping in range anymore. But yeah, it really works there. Now, if you can make perfect plans, cool. Cyberswords again are very stealthy. Run forward, take down guards. If you want to go and dissolve things, you can do that one as well. But the nice thing is they have a lot of really, really cheap tools to be like, you know what, it didn't quite work the way I thought it was going to. I'm in a bad spot. You can, just for the action point cost of striking, you can power slice somebody with or without the talent here with a stun club, and that guard is stunned. You rolled low on damage twice in a row, once in a row, whatever. They're not going to die. You're not, you're not confident. All right, stun club, bam. You're down for 2 turns. Don't worry about it. Not going to get reported. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through that one, no problem. Don't have stun charges up or the stun cooldown. Bam, preempt. Whatever this guard does, I'm going to stomp him. Their first turn's not going to be anything. Don't worry about it. We're going to be okay. I'm surrounded by more enemies. Okay, crap. It kind of sucks here, right? Pop Aegis, block 2 shots. Not a big deal. It's going to be all right. Want to do it proactively? Okay, we adaptive restruct. We give ourselves bonus armor. Don't worry. Can't run out of health too badly. It's going to be okay. Oh, it's looking really bad. Oh, my team needs help. They need more cover. All right, deflection field. Like, you have a lot of ways of keeping yourself alive or covering your teammates from a bad spot. You have a decent number of reactive tools. Just try to always keep 1 battery in store. You're going to look okay. And then as an actual damage dealer, Slash Slide can hit 2 to 3 people relatively commonly. 2 to 3 hits are not that unlikely. Chop is going to give you 2 AP back off of one of those kills. You can then follow up with a little bit more. It's going to look decent overall. It's not too bad. Next thing to talk about then is going to be the weaponry itself. I'm going to cut... Oh, no, sorry. We're going to talk about the mercs, and then we'll talk about gear. So there are 2 first-class cyberswords in the game. There's Zasha, who is one of the starting cyberswords. So she has a pretty good stat distribution, comes with a little bit of melee accuracy, comes with some bonus HP. Okay, fine, whatever. Comes with more bonus HP. She's really, really tanky. Not a huge damage dealer overall, right? There's nothing here that says I deal a ton of damage. I mean, the strength attribute's not too bad, right? Again, a good distribution of solid move speed and damage here. Kinetic Extra Pure is a really good just trait to have overall. So, solid attribute benefit here. But realistically, it's like, yep, she's fine. She exists. She's whatever. I will point out that there are 2 different sources of storyline / power that Zasha can key into. So one is there are 2 early game recruits. Natalia here is one of them, and Mateo is the other. These actually might have triggered. Yeah, Inkblot is actually the friend in this case. And then what about Lance? Lance picked the other one is a friend of somebody else. No. Yeah, Casper's the friend. Yeah. So basically, Dade, Zasha, and Liat, who can also be in this sniper / cybersword slot, are the 3 characters that I know of who can hook into getting the 2 free recruits here with the Vanguard and the other starting soldier. Additionally, Sibling Breakout, spoilers, result in getting a character here. You get a secondary hacker, and this can also trigger into being a friend of either, again, Dade, or it can be Inkblot, or it can also be Liat here as well. And so, hey, by the way, there's an extra benefit to running Zasha because she can key into some of the storylines that could be useful. Right now, her Norot storyline is not in the game. My expectation is we're going to add this sometime this year, sometime next 6 months. Otherwise, you are unfortunately in a spot where your character just kind of permanently weaken other characters. All the wound res you got from these places is actually, I mean, it's already negative here, but like, yep, you have negative wound res. Be careful. Don't take damage. You have negative move speed. That, find a way to mitigate because you're slow on a melee character. That's not great. Don't get me wrong. The 15, minus health here. Yep. Well, you're battling against the other health benefits here. So, I mean, this is downside. She's not, terribly strong trait wise. Don't get me wrong. Which can be kind of a downside. The other one comes from the Underworld Hub. This is the only, right now, at least for today, this is the only Cybersword in the Underworld Hub right now. There are no there's no storyline cyberswords or something else. Of course, you can multiclass, but as a direct cybersword, again, actually pretty solid background here. Strength is a good attribute. Tech is okay. If you're playing for things that have stealth crit on them, then cool, you can make use of the crit chance there. That's kind of nice. Some HP, melee accuracy, pretty solid here overall. Comes with a bit of a kiss curse trait here in Bloodthirsty. This can be a little bit scary. Strength is nice. The kinetic damage is nice, but personally getting 4 kills on a mission, that is usually more than 1/4 of all guards. Usually 16 guards is on the high end. That's a reinforcements coming in, which means you have to like really plan around this and make sure that your hired cybersword gets a bunch of kills, or you just gain stress pretty commonly with every single mission, which is not fun to deal with. Now, that said, you can recruit him and get 2 other traits. So we're going to skip by the dialogue here, and we can give him a couple options. We can give him strength and HP. We can give him what I think is actually quite interesting, which is you can make crafting cheaper by 6%. This increases to, I think, beyond 10% when you cap it out. That's pretty cool. Crit chance is fine, XP gain is fine, but pretty low value. Or you can gain overall better crit chance here. Again, if you're going for the stealth crit kind of playstyle, you can totally go here. He's already got some baseline crit chance that it's looking decent, but making all your stuff cheaper, kind of nice as well. So yeah, pretty reasonable grab. Pick whatever you want. We'll grab this, skip the dialogue. And then you have his downside. Basically, one of these 3 factions is going to hate him. Pick whichever one you want. You can have 2 different Megacorps or Bravestar hate him. Right now, like as of today in late June 2025, there are no real ramifications to this choice. At some point, I'm sure they're going to add some kind of, oh, angsty from faction, there's a kind who hates you, gonna hire head on or whatever. Like, there's nothing like really meaningful here. So hey, we'll just grab this. Great. Welcome to the team. Congratulations, you're on the team. Wonderful stuff. We can look at him and it's like, yep, he's hunted by Rook Tech. He's, you know, here he is, right? And he's got his nice tech, his nice stats, whatever. Here's the guy. So ultimately, pick whichever one you want. I think in a lot of cases, the stronger version of Cybersword is actually multiclassing into that for another character, as neither of these sets of traits are that inspiring, but up to you. We're now going to jump to a different save. I'm going to show you some of the gear that I recommend on a Cybersword. Let's talk about weapons. So the first thing you're going to start with on any melee character is going to be the typical little small baby slant blade. Solid kinetic damage, pretty good armor shred, decent enough accuracy. The big sort of benefit here is the stealth kill. So you get base crit damage is 1.5x. This adds another 50%. So your crit chance on a surprise target is going to be 2x, which is pretty solid because it turns out 600 kinetic damage is probably going to one-shot just about every kind of non-captain in the game. Your opening setup is going to allow a sling blade, you'll have an E-cutter, and you'll have the stunner and the stun stick. So as I mentioned earlier, there are basically 3 types of melee weapons. There are edges you can see here. That's always going to be the power size, going to be like Plaz Edge, or Plaz Light, or Plaz Razor, or Serrated Plaz Edge. And it's like, these all just add a bunch of flat, pure damage onto the attack itself. They also will scale about 10% stealth kill per power level. So you go from 2x to 2.1, to 2.2, 2.3, and then eventually, right, 2.4, 2.5. And that allows you to kind of keep up with like, yeah, okay, I crit at 460 for 2.5x. I'm doing around 1100 damage here, 1200 damage, something around there. Like, we're going to be in a pretty good spot. I will probably get through a lot of stuff. And the nice thing is actually with these weapons, because they're very often just simply only kinetic damage. This means you're getting, you know, quote unquote, the most value out of kinetic as bonus pure damage. And so a high strength character can get some value out of that one. It's kind of funny because, yeah, these weapons want high strength to get the extra pure damage on top, to multiply that out as extra gains. They want high crit chance. Now, tech is not the great way to gain that because 1% crit chance per tech is just not efficient really at all, but they really want to crit to keep themselves unseen, to get the benefit if they have learned something like Whisper Kill, and just literally use the thing here, which is the bonus damage. Now, the secondary weapon type is similar to the blades, and they're going to be E-cutters. So you can see that if we compare a sling blade to an E-cutter level 2, now to be fair, the sling blade has pure damage. It's not really a fair comparison. Let's compare level 3s instead. It's a bit more apt. Level 3 is going to have a little bit more damage per hit. It's going to have a little bit less accuracy. You're going to see the stealth kill only goes up by 5% per power level, so you can eventually have a really separated crit damage thing going on here. But the thing is, basically, is for these types of weapons, your baseline armor shred is often lower, but the power slice comes with armor shred. Now, there's actually only, as far as I can tell, for the ones I've seen, there's actually only 2 cutters in the game that come with Armor Cutter 2. There's this one, and then one that's craftable. That's around like power level 4. All the other cutters like this are actually Armor Cutter 1. So hey, by the way, it does stack with your random chance to shred. So you can, in fact, shred 3 armor, 3 protection points in a single strike here. You can mod melee weapons to get bonus shred chance. So if you're using this as, for example, maybe I'm playing a pure melee character. I have 2 melee weapons. The nice thing is these armor cutters typically have larger batteries. Right? You see 4 reload size here, 5 here, and you can like, oh yeah, here's a club. It's only got 4. Here's a plasma. It's still only got 2. Like, you know, these guys have very, very few charges. Some of them only have 2 even. Whereas, you know, the clubs are, you know, stopping around 3 to 4, but then these guys have even more. So what it means is that these are often more supportive because I will say on average, they are actually the lowest of the 3 weapon types. Again, there's like gonna be outliers once in a while, but on average, running this kind of weapon is you're gonna have less stealth crit damage than the Plas Edges. You're gonna have less overall damage per swing than the Plas Edges or the clubs. Your power slice does not scale off of literally anything, right? Like if you put points into improved power slice for duration, nothing happens. If you put points into improved power slice for bonus damage, it's just like the basic attack gets more damage, which is fine, but like you're using it to shred a bunch of armor, so they're already armored right now. Why get the bonus damage while they're armored? Why not wait till they're already shredded, right? And the fact they have big batteries is nice because you can use that to be like, oh, I'll switch to my Splicer Blade, and then I will go ahead and use Adaptive Restruct, or I'll put up the wall, or, you know, trigger Aegis or whatever. And so using them as like a large battery is entirely reasonable. I think not a terrible way to go about things, but hey, by the way, would not consider them your main weapon type unless you're like, oh, I'm playing my Cybersword as a like supportive character. The final consideration, though, is I think stun sticks are really amazing. I think stun clubs are amazing. So the basic power level 1 stun club is simply a 1-turn stun. It is a 1-turn stun. They will lose exactly 1 action. Be careful, you're only getting 1. If you take improved power slice, it becomes 2 or a 3-turn stun. That's kind of nice. But the really fun thing is stun sticks themselves are really inexpensive. It's only 48k base, and Origami Joe has a 5% discount, so it's really gonna cost you 46k to buy one every single time. But the real benefit is that this comes with really, really, really good damage. For a very cheap price point, you get 200 kinetic, 90 pure, which is going to outdamage the slant blade. I mean, it's like not close, obviously. Everyone has at least some armor, so this will just do better until your strength is absurdly high, which is very late in the game. You get a solid number of charges with just 3, and you get a stun. And every upgraded stun club actually comes with a little bit of extra on it. It comes with minus evasion. So you get your sort of +1 on stun stick. It comes with -5 evasion for that turn. You get a bigger stun stick. It's -10 evasion. I think there are some -15 evasion stun sticks there as well. And the nice thing is it means that your follow-up hits are going to be better either for you or for your team. It's going to be pretty worthwhile overall. They're not necessarily cheap. I mean, no high-level weapon is actually cheap here. But at the end of the day is, if you're looking for just generically highest damage per strike, it's clubs. The downside is their shred chances are quite low. You can see 10%. Every single club is a 10% shred. That is the lowest in the game for not pistols. Even sniper rifles will shred higher than this, so it's not very good. These are some of the swords that come out of the Fade Light Blades power play. Some of the stronger stuff will show you. I should have some craftable weapons on this character, on this save rather. If we say, hey, show me the powerful and rare melee weapons. Yeah, here's a level 6 Doom Hammer. Again, no shred chance, but this is a really, really, really good amount of damage here. The stun, you can see, -15 evasion on it. Kind of nice. We go for a Horizon Blade. Again, solid 5 ammo. 430 kinetic damage. Pretty solid here. Stealth kill is, decent enough here. Eviscerator is the best craftable Plas Edge. You get a nice 220 on the pure. Has it an 800 pure itself, so your Plas Edge is doing 320 kinetic, 320 pure, and you're critting for 2.5x. Yeah, if you crit, that guy is dead no matter what they are. Like, that is an absurd amount of damage. You're doing around 780 kinetic, 780 pure on a crit. Yeah, everything is dead. Literally everything in the game right now would die to a Eviscerator stealth crit with nothing else except just I stacked stealth crit chance. No damage, no nothing else. No mods, no nothing else. You also see that the base shred chance is at 70%. And there are mods that give more. If we look at what the craft could be and we say, hey, what could I put on this? Yeah, melee bonus is accuracy and crit bonus damage. Sounds great. Melee damage is damage and pure damage. Wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, I get a grip and I get a ton more stealth crit. Wow. I mean, I could now use this to take my club and say, actually, I'm going to crit for, 2.5 instead of 1.5, and it gets better from there, you know, real possibility, of course. There are lots of possible batteries. Some of them are just plus extra ammo, but you can just take some flat damage here as well. There's a lot of options, right? Here's one of the shred grips you can go for. Here's accuracy grip you can go for. There's some really good stuff you can put on here, right? There's some really, really good stuff that's available. And you can basically have, if I could put these power level of mods on like an AR, that would be stronger. Like these are really, really good. So a lot of the strength of using melee weapons is in fact that the crafting options are really, really nice. Let's see, anything else to bring up here? I guess we can start talking about cyberware as the last point. Unfortunately, I don't have any saves where I've got every single doctor service maxed out, but we can talk about it a little bit here. Let me find somebody that, we'll just go into talk about you. Why not? This is fine. So the really fun stuff here is the fact that there is a really good melee damage increase cyberware here. So the MJack 2000 comes from, I have it written down, I think it's imported 4. No, it's cyberware level 3. Cyberware level 3, which is really easy to get to. In fact, as soon as you start the 11th hour storyline, you get a doctor who has that service here. And it's a solid amount of 4 strength, which is 8% kinetic is pure. Pretty good. 8 days, not bad. Now, 25 kinetic, also quite nice. But minus move speed, kind of painful, right? That's not great. You don't want to see that. It's going to slow your melee character down, and you need to get in range to play your melee character. That kind of sucks. There's another option here. You can get better bone grafts. There's actually another service beyond this. I don't have this one on this save, but you can get, I think it's minus 7% move speed, but you can get a bunch more strength and a bunch more kinetic damage. This goes to like 15 or 25 or something. And you can get, I think it's like 6 or 7 strength here. It's a long downtime, but you can get a lot of durability, a lot of, you know, damage resist, or wound resist rather, and you can get a bunch more damage. But again, you're taking penalties to your move speed, which is kind of painful. Well, the nice thing is you can get some stuff from the Street Wetware service, which is a doctor that you can get from the Underworld hub. And if you limit break them once to get Thunderous X1, you limit break them a second time to get Thunderous X2, and you can mitigate 30% of the move speed penalty. Oh, it's basically all gone. Also comes with a good amount of strength and a decent amount of HP. The lower version is still more than reasonable. You don't really need the 25 here, but hey, 2 strength is kind of nice for another much higher of a price tag. That's kind of fun. There's also a lung slot here. The ADVX filter is also run available, I think, right away off of your imported doctor contact. You get another 15% move speed penalty mitigation here. And so you can basically pretty easily run all the heavy gear that slows you down and makes you, you know, kind of annoyed, and be like, no, actually, I've mitigated it. We're fine. There's no concerns here. We're going to be totally okay. You know, no problems here at all. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. There's even a babier version, which is kind of fine as well. But there's even one more, which you can go into the final slot and you can grab chipped reflexes, and it's not that exciting. It's 3% mitigated. You don't really need it, but it lets you add 3 move speed, which is kind of nice. The 2 initiative never really goes to waste, but you can functionally stack an entirety of 48% move speed penalty mitigation, which is pretty obviously a lot. The combination is you can get 40% total bonus kinetic damage. You can get 14 bonus strength. You're only getting minus 17 from the arms and the skeleton slot total, which means you've got 31% of move speed penalty mitigation that you can still find, which means you can go in and say, hey, you know, does this game have, I might have actually sold them on this save, hopefully not. Yeah, you can go and say, hey, what are the really, really good armors in here that are like heavy and slow me down a lot? Oh, 25% move speed penalty with 75 armor on each, and it comes with crit chance, or maybe it comes with, let me try to find something else. It's the same one actually. I'm getting a lot of the exact same item. That's not what I wanted. Yeah, here's another really, really heavy one that comes with 89, you know, basic stuff here. And like, yeah, a bunch of protection points, really good protection. And guess what? I run this along everything else. Here's another one, right? A lot of damage reduction. Here's a bonus HP. You can basically wear these comfortably and entirely ignore the move speed penalty. So if you want to play a high armor Cybersword, you can run them with absolutely 0 move speed penalty. You know, put in the lungs, you put in the legs, and that actually allows you the space for heavy armor and allows you the space for taking all the kinetic damage increases. And it's basically the only class in the game that has a lot of bonus damage in cyberware. The only thing that range classes really have is the legs for minus recoil, which is totally solid, and the eye implant, the display link to get the crit chance and whatnot, which again, also very good, don't get me wrong. But you can get, you know, really big modifiers here. So I think that kind of covers everything. That covers the characters who are available and hopefully how to play Cybersword and the kind of things to look forward to. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you want to see next. See you next time. Bye-bye.